I am here in my kitchen because I'm going to be real honest. What we're about to do, it's going to look like a can of alphabet soup got spilled all over your packet. But don't fret, as long as we stick with those algebraic properties that we've been practicing and reminding you of on every equation we've solved, this is going to be no different from solving any other equation. You're not going to believe me, but I promise you, if you follow the steps that we've been practicing with solving other equations, this is going to be exactly the same thing. Okay, let's get to it.
Literal equations is one of those lessons that looks a whole lot scarier than it is. This is not going to be an issue. We are going to get through this with no trouble whatsoever. And I'm going to talk fast, and we're going to have some nice short videos to make up for the super long ones we had in the last set of lessons I did. All right, so literal equations are simply equations with more than one variable, so two or more variables. A lot of times when this gets used is with a lot of formulas. We'll be given formulas that are solved, for example, for C. This is the formula for circumference of a circle. It's solved for C. Well, what if we want to have the R highlighted, the radius highlighted, instead of the circumference? Well, we can solve this equation for a different variable, for a given variable. We're going to use the same tools and strategies that we use when we solve traditional equations, when it's just full of numbers instead of letters. We just have to use inverse operations. All right, so let's go through this. When I first look at this problem, it says the formula for circumference of a circle is C equals 2 pi r. That means 2 times pi times r. And we want to solve for r. That means get the r by itself. So there's kind of two questions you need to ask yourself. One, what is being done to that r? And two, how can I undo it? Well, what's being done to that r is I'm multiplying it by 2 and by pi. How do we undo multiplication? Through division. So I am going to divide this r by 2 and by pi. You can do it at the same time because it's the same operation. So I'm going to go ahead and divide this side by 2 pi because anything I do to one side of the equation, I do to the other. Over here, 2 divided by 2 is 1. Pi divided by pi is 1. 1 times r is just r. So now r is all by itself, just like we wanted. Here, c divided by 2 pi, I can't do that. Here's why I love these problems. Because even though it looks more complicated and you're going to impress all your friends with how awesome you are at dividing by letters, you don't actually have to do any math because I don't know what the circumference is, so I can't very well divide it by 2. So I just get to say I'm going to divide and then leave that as the answer. So let's look at one over here. This is probably the one you're going to do the most often because next you're going to be learning to graph equations, and when we graph equations, we like to have them in this very specific form called slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form happens when you have an equation like this and y is isolated. Y is all by itself. So we're going to solve this for y. That's what this little y in parentheses means. All right, so my two questions. What is happening to y and how can I undo it? Well, what's happening to y is it's being multiplied by 3. It's also got this 2x that's being added to it. So I'm going to work through my order of operations in reverse the same way we do when we're solving two-step equations. I'm going to start by moving the things that are farthest away from that y. So I'm going to start by getting rid of this 2x. This is a positive 2x. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Right? Over here, 2x minus 2x is 0, and I'm left with just my 3y. So we're getting closer and closer to y being by itself. Over here, 12 minus 2x, well, I can't do that. I don't know what x is. That's not a like term, so I can't actually do any subtraction. That's great news, guys, because that means I can't mess up my negatives. I can't accidentally say 12 minus 2 is 15 or something silly like that because they're not like terms. I'm not actually doing any subtraction. All right, now y is still not quite by itself. There's one more thing that's being done to it. It's being multiplied by 3. How do we undo multiplication by 3? We divide by 3. Now, here's the one spot where it gets a little bit tricky. When I divide by 3, I'm used to just kind of dividing this whole side by 3. And that's fine. You can do that. You can just put a division by 3 here. But really what we need to do is we need to divide each of these terms. You need to divide this 12 by 3 and then also this negative 2x by 3. It's kind of like you're distributing this division of 3 throughout this whole side of the equation. So what that'll look like when you distribute that is you'll have 12 divided by 3 minus 2x divided by 3. So you've got to break that up and divide each thing by 3. Over here, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times y is just y. So now 12 divided by 3 is 4. 2 divided by 3 is going to give you a decimal. It's going to be 0.6 repeating. You can leave it as a fraction because when we go to graph this is going to be our slope and we want that to be written as a fraction. So there's another spot where you can save yourself some trouble. And then that's it. I'm all finished. All right, so go ahead, do a couple of U-tries, focus on these, make sure you really understand what's going on. Let us know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in a minute.